Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
And we are back with this very special edition of Atlanta Business Radio. It is ATDC Radio broadcasting live from down here at the ATDC. First up on this episode, please join me in welcoming to the broadcast Retail Tech Catalyst, Miss Monique Mills. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me today.
Well, we are delighted to have you. Retail Tech Catalyst, role, mission, purpose. What are you trying to do for the folks here at ATDC?
Well, the Retail Tech Program is still relatively new, and the goal of it is to bring together and create startups that are innovating in the retail space. As we all know, they're having challenges, and it's a combination of reasons why. Of course, things are changing, but there are many innovations and technologies that can help sustain the industry, and we're here to help build up those companies.
Now, what is your backstory? How did you land in a role like this?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have a long history, but I'm an electrical engineer turned serial entrepreneur. And
that makes perfect sense, right, guys? Electrical engineer,
there you go.
Entrepreneur,
makes sense.
Retail Tech Catalyst. It's your typical path.
Typical path. I actually had a startup where many retailers were my customers. And so I got to really understand the issues that they had deeply. And so when they needed someone to run the program here, I guess I was a natural fit.
So what do you like the best about it? What do you find the most rewarding?
The most rewarding part are the founders and the ideas they come up with and the enthusiasm they have to change the world, one retailer at a time, and create things to save and help businesses.
These startup folks, they're unflappable. I mean, I feel 10 years younger every time we come down here and do these live broadcasts. The spirit, the soul, there's just something about these people. They're, you know what I thought of the other day? I was watching something on Netflix, a Roman thing. I thought, these folks are gladiators.
Yes.
Right?
They are gladiators. They are doing the work that takes courage. You have to step out there. You have to go out there like the emperor with no clothes and be judged and be rejected, and still get up every day and continue to do it.
So your startup journey, did you experience some of those same highs and lows?
Oh, absolutely. I was early, like my technology was early, and I spent so much time educating, it just wore me out. So anytime you're early, that's what you're spending all your time and money doing is educating. So everything that they're going through, I've been there, done that. And so I can empathize and help them through it.
Well, that level of credibility, I'm sure, serves you and them extremely, extremely well. That's important, I think. Now, you have, or there is, coming up pretty soon, this Retail Technology Innovation Symposium get-together Margarita Monday thing. I don't know what it is, but you got some big powwow coming up, right?
It is the big powwow of the year. This is our third annual ATDC Retail Technology and Innovation Symposium. I know, that's a long title,
That's a lot, right?
It's a lot. But the thing is, retail tech is a lot of things. If you think about it, it's operations, it's customer analytics, it's, logistics, it's just so many different pieces. So
maybe even reviews.
Yeah. Reviews.
We should get somebody here to talk about that in a little while.
Yeah. So we actually have one of the founders that's going to be showcasing his technology at the symposium here with us today.
So how many folks do you expect, and what are some of the disciplines that we might see there?
Yeah. So we're expecting 200 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We're expecting 200 people, and it's a combination of retailers, industry, professionals from various companies, investors, as well as startup founders. There are also some researchers and PhDs from Georgia Tech that are coming to display some of their research and applications to the industry. And getting all those people together in the same room to make things happen is extremely powerful. And that's the purpose of the event. In addition to, of course, showcasing our fantastic founders from ATDC. So we'll have a showcase.
It's one of the wonderful things, and I really do think there are so many about just hanging out in this environment, this ATDC environment. I think it was earlier today somebody used the word collisions. You know, just like, and you bump into folks and great ideas. Now we're doing this pretty soon. What's the date on this?
It's October 31st, and it's all day. So it's from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's at the garage in Tech Square, which is at 848 Spring Street Northwest. So it's behind the ATDC building. So I just want people to realize that they don't show up to the ATDC 200 people. Good grief. But yeah, it's at the garage, and it's an all-day event. It'll be a combination of breakout sessions, and some of our ATDC founders will be showcasing their technology and demoing it on the stage in front of everyone. And our breakout sessions will include topics like artificial intelligence in retail, drone technology in retail, supply chain innovations, and omnichannel. I know, big words, right?
They are big words. It sounds like you guys have put a lot of thought into this. I know there must be a lot of moving parts. Two words, take it for what it's worth. But given the day, Hershey bars.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Halloween theme, right?
Right, Steve? What do you think? There should be some candy there, right?
Well, you can never have enough candy, right?
Absolutely. But now this is, I know this is kind of the thrust right now, but you got this other thing, this fast pitch thing.
We do.
Yeah, speak to that a little bit.
Fast pitch is actually meant to help bring people into ATDC that are very, very early stage, sometimes just an idea or a preliminary product. And we want some new ideas in, right? And so these people are not typically ATDC members, and they are going to pitch their idea or new product to the audience. And we have 3 judges that's going to ask additional questions and actually judge. And the audience gets to vote for their favorite.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then the winner does get a Hershey bar, or what's the?
Well, the winner actually does get membership into ATDC, and I'll start working with them to get them to the next level, 6 months.
And if there are any listeners out there that don't know, that is no small prize.
No.
I tell you what, the work that is done here in this facility, and we've been down here at Business RadioX, we've been down here enough to listen to people talk about what they've learned about the customer discovery process. Just so much gets done here that really equips people to go to market. So that is a fantastic prize. So you mentioned just a moment ago that you've got one of these folks with you. Who'd you bring with you today?
Well, we brought in Steve Baxter today of GATOREVIEWS. It's a new company in the ATDC, and we're so excited about it. Steve, you want to tell us more about you?
Well, welcome to ATDC. Yeah. Welcome to Business RadioX. We're delighted to have you. GATOREVIEWS?
GATOREVIEWS.
GATOREVIEWS. Yeah, tell us a little bit about GATOREVIEWS.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Monique, and thanks for the invitation. Thank you, Stone, for inviting us here today as well.
Yeah, really our pleasure, man.
Thank you. Well, GATOREVIEWS is as the name implies, it's a reviews company. But it's a lot more than that. It's complete reputation management, and it's solving for a very unique problem, which is unknown identity. I've been asked many times, does the world really need another customer reviews platform? Well,
I got to be honest with you. I'm socially skilled enough not to do it, particularly on the air, but that's really kind of what I just asked myself when you introduced yourself.
Right.
Because there's a lot of that kind of thing out there, right?
Of course there is. There are probably hundreds of companies now doing some form of customer feedback process. Mm-hmm. And I had one of them. I founded a company back in 2006, 2007.
God, you are a gladiator. You've done all this stuff before you got it. Wow.
You'd have thought.
Why don't you have a job now, Steve, after all that?
Maybe. Well, I'm a slow learner.
No kidding, though. You've done this type of thing before. You've built, with your own hands, you've built something. Yes,
I founded a company back in 2006, 2007. It was to operationalize Net Promoter Score. NPS had been out about a year or two. A book had been written. Nobody was really doing it from a software perspective. And I started one of the first companies to do that. And I remember going into a meeting, a conference there's probably 1,000 people in the room, and I was fortunate enough to be invited to speak at it on customer experience and feedback. And I asked the attendees to, by a show of hands, who had heard of NPS and who was doing customer feedback, and probably 5 hands went up in the room.
Wow.
And now if you ask the same question, everybody's hand's going to go up. So here we are starting a brand new company to do essentially, well, it's not the same thing, but something quite similar. And I tell you, when I started that company, and it was somewhat successful. I mean, I grew that company. We had 30,000 customers using the software within the space of 5 years.
Wow.
So it wasn't exactly, unsuccessful.
Right.
And it was acquired about 18 months ago. And we licensed that software also off to NCR. That product is known globally as NCR Customer Voice. So, that product is used extensively. So why do it again, and why GATOREVIEWS? And the answer is that there's only two ways really of getting a customer review. One is to ask for it, and the other one is to almost hope that your customer leaves a review. And all those review sites out there like Yelp and TripAdvisor and Facebook, Google, they're all sites that rely really on the customer taking time out, leaving their feedback about your business. And what we found over the years is typically a customer has to be really quite disappointed, like a 1-star review.
So you're getting the outliers.
Right. And typically you get that, or you get people who you've exceeded their expectation. So it's not just if they could give you more than 5 stars, they probably would.
Right.
You've really exceeded their expectation. And this is gray mass, which is about 90% of most of your customers that sort of sit in this 4 to 4.5 star range, where you've met the objective. They expected good food, they expected good service, they expected a good product, and they got one.
And they don't leave a review at all, is what you're saying.
They don't tend to go out of their way to do that.
I see.
So it gives you the other way. And before I get into that, I'll talk about this unsolicited way. What happens is, if you get 2 people, one's giving you a 1 star and the other one's giving you a 5 star, the average is still 3. And that's still poor. And so a lot of businesses really are harmed by these open platforms where you're relying on the customer to just buy their own device to give you some feedback.
Right.
And the business model as well associated with some of these sites doesn't really lend themselves to the people they think they're serving. So the other way is this where you're soliciting the review, where you're asking somebody for it. And for that, you need to know who they are. And the fact of the matter is 90% of all business is done offline. It's done in a bar. It's done in a restaurant. It's done in a store. It's done in your home. It's people are walking in, buying and walking out. You have no idea who your customer is. So it's pretty hard to solicit them if you don't know who they are. And that's why we designed GATOREVIEWS.
I just bought a slice across the way, and there was no real interaction. It was really good. I'm going to go back. But if we hadn't had this conversation, I'd have never said anything good, bad, or indifferent about, that's exactly your point, right?
That is the point.
That guy doesn't know who I am, doesn't know, yeah.
Doesn't know who you are, doesn't know how to get back in touch with you. It's got no way of, you're a promoter. You like his product, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we
I don't mind telling you, and we're sitting in this room, right? Yeah.
There we go. We've gone from, the power of word of mouth to now the power of a click. And a share, and so what GATOREVIEWS does, and it's rather a fun way actually. So imagine that you've gone in and you've bought that slice of pizza, and the guy handed you a little card, like a little lottery card, a scratch card, and says, "Hey, take this," and you scratch that card, and there's a little website there. You go to that website and you leave a review, but to find out if you've won anything, maybe another slice of pizza or a free soda the next time you
I'd do that in a heartbeat.
You do it in a heartbeat.
Because I'm coming away. Yes, I would do that. And so, okay, nice.
You do it in a heartbeat. And it's fun and it's engaging, right? And so what we do is the business takes these little scratch cards that we've got, you hand them out, you scratch, you put the code into the website, you leave your review, and you find out if you've won something. And so what we're finding is the fun element of this, we're getting a 50 to 65% response rate from all of the customers. Wow. All of the customers. Not just the customers that you've got the email for or they're in a loyalty program, all of your customers. And not only are you getting feedback, which is terrific, which we then actually go on and syndicate. It's shared to Google. It's picked up. We're using the technology, so it goes into Google reviews. We can share it wherever you want, onto your website, wherever. But more importantly, you're getting that customer information, and there's an incentive to come back. And so we're driving up to 100% repeat business from the customers who are engaging with our platform.
That is incredible. And it strikes me that if you get that chance to have this conversation with the proprietor at the pizza place, you're probably very successful in marketing this kind of thing. How does the whole sales and marketing thing work for a company like yours that's trying to meet a market like this? Are you out just beating the bushes, or is there some other way to get that piece of it done?
Well, both myself and my co-founder Pierre-Henri Pochon and our other two co-founders, we've got a pretty extensive network. Pierre founded a company pretty much the same time as I founded mine. Again, successfully it was acquired, and we've known each other for 12 years. We've always wanted to do business together, and now we are. And we're both tapping into our networks, and it's going quite well.
That's fantastic. So, Monique, you must just be so proud when you have someone in the program. No, really, this has got to make you must go home and sleep really well at night and feel very good about what you do for a living.
I love what I do for a living, but it's people like Steve that is like, wow, like light bulbs go off. It's like, you know what? That's an awesome idea. And to actually execute on it and have someone who's done it before, that's the part where it's like, yeah, I can't wait to see where this company lands.
Well, it would be exciting for me. It seems like it's an exciting time for you, Steve. In retrospect, as you're sharing this with the people in this room, there seems to be a really strong element of simplicity to the idea, right? It doesn't seem like overly complicated idea, but a lot of good ideas are that way. And I can't speak for Pat and Monique, but I'd have never come up with it, but now that you've articulated it, the concept makes all the sense in the world to me.
Well, that's good to hear, because, and I think it's, if I can talk about being an entrepreneur, and I think some of the challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs face, that simplicity is actually quite difficult.
Yes.
I do a fair amount of advising. I sit on a couple of boards, and I cannot tell you the number of times, when I've sort of walked in there and say, like, what is it you do? And they give me the 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, 10 things that they do. And it gets complicated, right? And it's not what you do, it's what you don't do. That's the thing that you should be focusing on. And like I said, when it comes to customer reviews, look, we do one thing. We solve for the problem of unknown customer identity. Period. Now, if our software on the back end, when you look at all the customer feedback, all the analytics, everything that you need then to drive a business outcome as a result of knowing your customer information, knowing the feedback and knowing your reputation and understanding, comparatively speaking, how you fit with your local competitors, because we've got all of that.
Right.
I mean, we've got all the sophistication, all the analytics, everything that you would want from a really sophisticated customer feedback system. We've got that. But, I'm not really talking about it. Why? Because I want the message to be, we solve for unknown customer identity. And if you do not know who your customers are, then we are the solution for you. If you do know who your customers are, we're still a good solution for you. And you might come across us one day and you might think, that's pretty cool. I might want to do that, right? You've got alternative ways of doing it, but that's not who we're targeting on the first go around. Eventually, maybe, but not right now.
What a marvelous lesson and set of disciplines for entrepreneurs, because, and I throw myself in that bucket. I think Lee and I are entrepreneurs. I know personally I get very easily distracted by shiny objects. And every time I find a new little something that, with this thing of ours, it's tempting to go talk about that and run down that path. But if you can exercise that discipline, especially early on, to focus on that one thing, like the guy said in that movie a long time ago, it's that one thing. Okay. You and Pierre both, you guys are seasoned entrepreneurs. You've had some hard knocks. You've had successes, failures, highs, lows.
No doubt. Why
go through ATDC? Don't you guys have this entrepreneur thing figured out?
Do you know, that is a great question. And my regret is that I didn't do it the first time. My friend Charles Potts, who works here, he and I were talking, and I was saying, we're going to start this new company, yada, yada, yada. And he was telling me about it. Now, I've known about ATDC for as long as it's been around. And, but this time around, I thought, you know what? It will be a pleasure and a privilege to start the company here. In the US, to start it here, start from the beginning in terms of our startup here in the US, put it right here. The availability of resources. And I think it's a fool who thinks he knows everything, right? And the resources, even after doing this before, just because I did it before, maybe I was lucky.
What a mature, personally accountable, coachable, wide lens way to approach that. Yeah, kudos to you for that.
Yeah, it's eye opening, and I would say to any young entrepreneur who's thinking of starting a company or is in his bedroom right now, like trying to figure this thing out, come down here and just talk to these guys and see if you can get in. And if this is your third venture, come and talk to these guys and see if you can get in, because the availability of resources is just incredible. And also, I think for people who've done this before as well, I think there's always this element of wanting to give back a little bit as well. And I mean, just today, Business France is here this afternoon.
I thought I saw that on the
signs. Yeah. They're here this afternoon, and like, wow, we've started our company in France. We've got a place here. We can help those guys. Right. So you actually bump into ways to give back as well as you go through. So there's 100 reasons to be here.
So what's next for you guys? Where are you going to be putting your energy in the coming months, you think?
It's all in product and sales. It's that simple.
Monique, again, you must just absolutely love what you do.
I do. I love what I do. And the good thing is, with Steve, he's actually going to be demoing his product at the Retail Tech Symposium on Halloween.
So you're going to be one of the people that are at this thing. And so have you prepared some sort of formal presentation? What's that going to look like?
Well, I think we have 10 minutes, right? Nice. So I think we've already got that done.
Yeah.
If you can't tell people what you do in 10 minutes, you've got a problem.
Yeah. Well, you say that, and sometimes in some of these competitions, it's less than that. But
they're not competing.
Okay.
They're showcasing. The competition is for new players.
Got it. Yeah. Got it. But that's an excellent point, though. You really do have to get to where you can articulate what you do and why you do it and how it serves people very succinctly, don't you?
Absolutely. They talk about the elevator pitch, right? Mm-hmm. Well, some people think they get into buildings which are 400 floors, right? So assume you're going 2 floors, get it out.
So what do you need most, and what can we do to help, man?
Well, you can never have enough customers, right?
Right.
And I tell you, one of the reasons why we're doing the ATDC thing as well is a shameless plug for my 2 daughters. I have my eldest daughter's 3rd year Georgia Tech, computer science.
Wow.
So Maggie's going there, and my youngest, she's a freshman at UGA. So I've got both of the schools there. So when I look at what Maggie's doing and what these kids are doing, it's astonishing. And there's a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning that's in our product, and tapping into the ATDC Georgia Tech resources. That's high on our list. And we've already got a program lined up for the spring for the post-grad guys.
Oh, really?
On the AI side, yeah. So we're going to be bringing in 5 to 10 postgrads working with us.
That's another distinct benefit of hanging out with this crowd, the access to talent, right?
Unmatched.
And that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need this leading edge, forward thinking think tank, these brains that are here. To help improve the product.
Well, if your daughters are anything like my two, so I have some empathy for what you've been through and the joys of what it's like to have two daughters. But if they're anything like mine, they don't want to work with Dad. So send them my way, will you?
There's no way my daughter's working with me. There's no way.
We'll put them to work in the business radio business. So, the name of the company, GATOREVIEWS, is there a story behind that?
Not really. It's just the Gator's kind of cute, and it's a memorable little, when you see our logo, it's kind of cute, and I don't know. It's all Pierre's. That bit's Pierre.
That was Pierre's idea?
There is a bit of a story. He loves Florida. And
the University of Florida. My wife's a Gator, so that's why I didn't wonder if it came from there.
Like we go back and forwards on it, but yeah, it is kind of cute.
So let's leave our listeners, particularly those who are just kind of getting things off the ground, with a little bit of counsel about how to approach this idea of tapping into the ATDC ecosystem. And once you're here, how to fully leverage it to its best benefit. I'd actually like to kind of hear it from both of you. Maybe I'll start with Monique, and then but let's wrap it with you, Steve, on both of those points. How to kind of get started, get your feet wet here, and then how to fully leverage it once you're in. So
the best way to get started with engaging with ATDC is really to just come to some of the events that we have. I mean, there's classes and events that happen every single week.
And these are not expensive seminar workshop.
No, it's free
stuff.
Yeah. Several of them are open to the public. Others you're required to have the lower membership, which just costs $25 a quarter. And by the way, most of our events have food, so you cover the cost of your,
I spend that on pizza.
There you go. So that provides you access. You can't get a better value.
Just right out of the box. And what are some of the topics or disciplines that you might be exposed to even at that level?
Oh, at that level, you're exposed to everything. The main thing that you don't get at that level is the one-on-one continuous coaching with one of us catalysts. However, you do have access to mentors, our volunteer mentors, and we have about 100 of those.
Well, if you had a list in front of you, listeners, of the who's who in the startup environment, the venture capital world, all that stuff, and you were sitting where I'm sitting today, I've watched half of that list walk by this glass door.
That's right.
And sometimes I know their face. I'm like, who is it? And I look it up, and it's just these people are here.
Yep.
And to your point, Steve, a great many of them, maybe most all of them, are really here trying to give back. They've made their money, they've had their fun, and that's really incredible to me.
Yeah, you have a lot of people in this environment that just want to give back and help others to, achieve certain levels of successes they have. So that's the great thing about this. And then, ATDC is, we're funded by the state. And so we don't take equity in any of the companies.
And that's a distinction for most accelerator incubator things, right?
That's right. I mean, that's a huge distinction because all of the others do take, equity in exchange for investment.
Right. So, Steve, any particular counsel you might offer, young and old entrepreneurs just in where to get started and how to fully leverage this thing?
Yeah, I think just show up and just hang out. The office is here. You can sit in your office. You can sit in the co-working space. You can sit in the lobby. I mean, just as I was waiting here, Sig Mosley just walked past, right?
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, there are...
And Aubrey makes popcorn. I mean, what? Yeah. Right? That's as good a selling point. I don't need a Sig, popcorn, both of those are important.
Yeah. And so, the opportunity just to sort of just grab somebody, as they're walking by. And if you're not here, it's not going to happen. And, I'll just mention about these postgrads, by the way. Monique mentioned some of these things are free. So we got the email from the lady organizing this. And so I responded. I'm like, we have, she's looking for people with a project. I'm like, yeah, we've got a project. What's involved? And then she comes back and says, well, you can have between 5 and 15 of these postgrads and they work on a project. And I'm like, well, how much is that going to cost me? It's nothing.
Wow.
I don't know a single other university, certainly of Georgia Tech's caliber, where you can get access to 5 to 10 people to work on your project for free. If that isn't worth $30,000, $40,000, I don't know what is, but that's typically what you'd be spending for that.
Man.
And so, but look, just take the money out of it. Just the talent which is around here, you can get you can get advice, you can get mentorship, you can just bounce an idea around, and if that saves you 6 months to market, if it saves you running down a path that you're going to run down for the next 2 months, that's worth millions of dollars.
Oh yeah,
right? You cannot put a number on it, so it's just invaluable, really, to me.
Well, it has been an absolute delight having you on the show. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or somebody on your team, and from a customer standpoint or an investor standpoint or whatever, they want to have a conversation about some of these topics, what's the most appropriate way to get connected with you? I don't know if it's email, phone, LinkedIn, whatever is appropriate. What's the best way for them to get connected with you?
Steve at GATOREVIEWS, 1 hour in the middle.
Man, this simplicity thing is a theme with you, Steve.
There's a theme, right?
Right. I love it. Well, thanks again. Keep up the good work. Keep us posted, and let's stay connected, man.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes, sir. All right, Monique. Also, if our listeners want to learn more about ATDC, they want to get involved, and or if they want to talk specifically about retail, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, they can always go to atdc.org. That's the main page, and connect with any of us in any vertical, including myself. In order to get in touch directly with the Retail Tech Program, you can email retailtech@atdc.org. And to register for the event, you can just go to atdcretailtech.com.
And that's coming up. That's October
31st, all day.
I had that date in my mind for some reason.
It's Halloween. Yeah.
But this event's not scary. This is going to be a fantastic event.
It's going to be fantastic.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for keeping us posted.
Thanks for having me.
And I can't thank you enough for bringing Steve, man. You bring a lot of energy to this thing.
Thank you.
We're excited for you.
Thanks, man.
Hey, how about staying with us? We got one more guest we're going to visit with.
You got it.
All right. Y'all ready for the headliner here? He's been very patient. He's been nodding his head. I thought I caught him taking some notes. Please join me in welcoming to the show founder and CEO with Stackfolio, Mr. Pavleen Thukral. How are you, buddy?
Thank you for having me, Stan.
Well, I am delighted to have you. What'd you learn in that last segment?
More about Net Promoter review scores than I knew my entire life. That's what I learned. I also learned that you've got a butter smooth voice, man. I don't have
Doesn't he?
a deep tone like that. I was just sitting here jealous the whole time.
Well, my value to the entire broadcast industry is they hear me. If that guy can do this and make a living at it, I can do it. So I'm an inspiration to some people, but he does have a marvelous voice. We're going to keep him after class, knock out some voiceover work. But before we do that, I want to learn about Stackfolio. Absolutely. Mission, purpose. What are you out there trying to do for folks?
Yeah, so Stackfolio is an online marketplace for loan trading between financial institutions. So we help banks, credit unions, insurance companies, REITs, asset managers, hedge funds, basically any type of financial institution trade loan assets online instead of using a human broker. So let me explain what that means.
Well, I was going to say, because to me, I would have thought this was locked and loaded long before I even entered the business world. And so it is in some sense, but not in another.
Yeah, so I think when people typically think about financial institutions trading assets, they think about bonds, securities, equities. And so a lot of people seem to think that, during the whole digital revolution, particularly in financial services in sort of the 2000s to 2010s, when basically every structured product like the NASDAQ, equities moved onto the internet and, we started to have the flourish of these algorithmic trading. Everyone sort of thinks that everything sort of moved online and that's very much not true. And I was actually very surprised to find out. So, you might be shocked that today in the United States, there exists a market that transacts anywhere between $500 billion to $1 trillion every year. At the low end, there's about 20,000 institutions that participate. So you're really institutional banks, credit unions, insurance companies, REITs. And then if you start including these tech-enabled lenders or these non-bank lenders, on the side of the road, I'm sure you've seen the hard money folks. That number jumps to about 100,000. And all of them are trading loans over the phone using human brokers, there's between 5 to 20 people per counterparty that are involved in the transactions. And it takes 6 to 9 months to complete a trade. And the primary form of media transfer is mailing a CD drive across the country.
Oh my.
So when I found that out as an engineer that grew up in the age of the internet, I thought people were nuts, right? And we sort of built the entire premise of the company that there is not a human brokered market of size in existence that the internet will allow to exist into the future, right? It's just something as an engineer that I know to be true. So for you to tell me there's a market of that size that still transacts that manually, I just know, even if it's not us that win, it will move online. It will happen with Airbnb, PayPal, eBay, the NASDAQ, ICE, Amazon, everything.
All right, but you and your team, you're the pioneers. So you may very well be the one that gets the arrows in the back before the rest of us figure out that the Indians are here. So, I mean, right? So you're out in front on this.
We are, yeah. So I'd say we are an industry leader. We're farther, I think, than anybody else. And our primary competitors today.
God, another gladiator, Steve. Right? You're another gladiator.
I hope so.
All right. So what are some of the big rocks, the big barriers to getting this thing going? Because it sounds, what you're saying seems like it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, but I got to believe there's got to be some big old inertia barrier to this thing.
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks that have tried to enter the space in the past have made the mistake of building what I like to call just a listing service. So a lot of people seem to think that in building marketplace businesses, if you sort of build the Craigslist for X, people will come. Mm-hmm. And that's very much not true. So, we spend a whole lot of time in the beginning of the business making sure that we were architecting something that was not just a Craigslist for loans, that was not just a listing service. So we've now spent over 2.5 years building a complete transaction engine for loan asset transactions. So we've built a technology we internally call Blueprint that allows you to do any form of loan asset transaction online. So whether that be pools of loans, so multiple loans in a single package, participation. So if there's a really large sized loan that banks or credit unions want to participate pieces of, a warehouse line of credit transaction. And then underneath those types of transaction, every asset class under the sun, right? So we're not just a marketplace for mortgages or just for commercial loans, everything from mortgage, commercial, auto, consumer, real estate, credit card loans, student loans, everything.
All right. So is this a sexy slide deck or is this a happening thing right now?
The happening thing right now. So, we've spent over 2 years of investment in it, right? And this is what I think a lot of people get wrong. There's the access problem in most marketplace businesses and certainly in loan trading, but there's also the process problem. So you have to actually do the transaction online, right? It's not just about introducing the two counterparties and then sort of just lifting your hands and saying they can do the rest offline. That's not a magical experience. They need to be able to do the listing, the pricing, communication, doc negotiation, due diligence. Everything needs to happen online. And doing that for all these different types of transactions is really, really hard.
So is there relatively new technology that has made this, if not possible, a lot more practical now than maybe 5-10 years ago that you've sort of capitalized on?
So what I'd say is sort of two things have helped.
Or you had to go build it? Or both?
Well, the vast majority we've had to go build, right? So one thing that I think has sort of helped is the penetration of cloud-based technologies, particularly in financial services. So a lot of these cloud-based technologies already having sort of overcome the security barriers that are needed in the space has helped tremendously. The other thing is I think there's a belief in productivity workflow businesses that there sort of wasn't in the mid to early 2000s, that there's
a belief and a thirst, right?
Absolutely, right? And like Slack had a huge, he moved a lot of barriers to sort of folks waking up and saying that, the workplace and the process with which folks do work needs to adapt to moving online. And especially when you're, in sort of niche areas, right? Where, Slack has sort of carved their niche inside of an organization in sort of these generic productivity communication problems. And Stackfolio is saying, hey, there are 5 to 20 people in every transaction per counterparty. There are thousands of loans being moved from place to place. There's pricing to be done. There's diligence to be done. And today by the end of a transaction, you have like 300 to 400 different email threads and 100 to 200 phone call conversations, and it's all over the place. And if somebody goes on vacation, you're screwed. So, moving all of that in one place, there's a convenience factor, not to mention the tremendous amount of access that you get to assets.
So the value proposition, now I'm a sales guy and I'm an easy sale. I buy everybody, any kid that comes to my stoop, I buy it. So, but the value proposition to me, it sounds very attractive. I'm very enamored with that. And I get this vision of these, old school guys in the back room smoking cigars, sort of snickering at your new idea. We got our way. Did you run into any of that, or was it initially embraced?
So I'd say we have never entered a single room that we have described Stackfolio where they did not agree with the premise of the business.
Okay.
That the market will move online. Mm-hmm. Now, folks might disagree with, some of the minutia that,
right.
We don't like this product page, or, that way of doing it won't work, or this, in this asset class, you'll never achieve penetration with this. But everybody.
Well, some of that data is good to get, because sometimes they might be right about those things.
Absolutely. Right. But nobody has disagreed that the market will move online. Mm-hmm. The other thing is there has never before existed this type of access in the space, right? So today on any one of your phones, you can go to stackfolio.com/marketplace and see $2 billion of loan asset opportunity without having to sign in, without having to pay anything. It's all right there. It's anonymous, but that amount of access to the market has never existed before. And so today, if you're especially a community bank, the only way you have to access the market is to go call up your regional brokerage firm, and they might introduce your deal to maybe, 30, 40 folks that they have a relationship with, or choose to only show it to one because they believe it's the most worthwhile exit and easiest way for them to consummate a trade. And so folks really don't have national access today, and that's what we're trying to solve for first and foremost.
Okay, so that even supersedes the speed and ease of the transaction. The back to what Steve was saying in the last segment. Your one thing is access. You're trying to make it where a lot more people can play here.
Absolutely, yeah. Number one is access.
Okay.
It's the marketplace.
All right.
And then number two is actually being able to do the transaction, right? And unfortunately, in financial services, right, your solution sort of has to be a little bit more baked before a financial institution will wrap their arms around it, right?
I'll bet.
No bank is calling on a Raymond James to say, hey, solve this one really, 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 really niche problem for us. We just have a problem, and they need the whole thing solved. And so, we really took the approach of saying we needed to be a full service solution going out to market. Now, I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not saying that everything on the platform is beautiful and perfect and works, immensely better than a manual approach, but it certainly is better. And it certainly provides more access, and it certainly provides more convenience.
So where exactly are you now? How would you characterize your position on the curve there? Are you?
Yes, I'd say we're early, right?
Okay.
So we today have a little over 1,000 institutions on Stackfolio.
1,000 more than I have.
Right around $2 billion of listed opportunities today, and we look to the market, and we've been out there now for about 2.5 years live to the market. And what I'd basically say is we've been investing heavily in acquiring more and more network, right? So that's what we've been investing in, and then investing in technology for the folks that are able to consummate a trade with the limited network that we have today.
Okay, so let me back up a minute. Acquiring network means going out and building relationships with the credit union, with the bank, the people who would participate on the platform.
Absolutely.
So you're building those relationships
and onboarding them onto the platform, getting assets listed. That's what we've been investing in so far, because the moat for most marketplace businesses is the amount of network density that they've already been able to capture. That's really, really hard to compete with.
Right.
And so the thing that we are pumping dollars and speed and sweat and sort of sweat equity into is getting that network to be more and more dense every day.
Because you do have a little bit of this chicken egg thing. and you've had to pick one. So
absolutely.
You went with the chicken or the egg or whatever you want to call it. But all right, so you put your money there. I interrupted you. All right, and then what's the rest of the picture?
And the rest now is we're now starting to convert some of that density, right? So to date, we've closed, a couple $100 million in transactions through Stackfolio.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, but it's still, pennies relative to the market. And so what we're starting to invest in now is, for example, prospecting infrastructure. So we're generating a tremendous amount of data now where we've got thousands of folks coming and filtering for assets.
And there's going to be applications for that you're just not fooling with right now down the road, right? With all that data, right?
Absolutely. Right now we're just trying to optimize for ourselves, right? Saying, hey, there are lots of folks that are coming in here and clicking on listings, that are filtering for assets, that are requesting access to deals, that are bidding on stuff. And we need to capture that data so that we can go and counterparty search and prospect them for deals. Because there are connections happening on our marketplace right now that are not being consummated. And so just trying to, again, we have a bunch of nodes in this network. Right. We need to draw lines between them and increase that density. And once we get that wheel turning, nobody else will be able to compete. And as long as we're running faster and harder ahead up that mountain than anybody else, we're going to win.
What an exciting time for you guys. So what do you need more of? Or do you need money? Do you need people? Sleep? What do you need? Everybody in the room smiled at that because they've all been entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I'd say, of course we're an early stage startup, so we're always fundraising. Mm-hmm. I guess is the answer to that.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot of money changing hands, but it looks like your coat's off the rack. No, I'm kidding.
Basically, the answer to that question is we're investing heavily into more and more market relationships, right? So for us, our main investment focus right now is any form of customer relationship that we can go build. So that comes through physical capital markets talent, right? Human talent. So I'm not, I'd love to be able to say that we're Airbnb, and if you post a listing on Stackfolio today, that it'll turn in the next week.
Right.
That's not the case, right? So we still invest in some boots on the ground, and we have a multi-channel strategy to getting your deal to convert on Stackfolio. And one of those channels is a physical human national sales team. So we're always after tremendous fixed income capital markets talent. If there's somebody out there that believes that they play in the space and they agree that in a few years the market will have turned and moved online and they want to jump on that rising ship right now, we're hiring, we're open. Please come reach out to me. My email is pav@stackfolio.com, pav@stackfolio.com. The second piece is that, yes, I do believe we're not done raising capital. Absolutely. Right. So we're continuously growing the team. That takes some capital investment. But the marketplace is on, I'm not sitting here today. We're certainly not Airbnb, but we're certainly not nothing. So there are 1,000 institutions. There are assets. There are transactions happening.
So before we wrap, talk to me a little bit about your experience with ATDC, what that's been like, and what counsel, if any, you might offer some of our listeners if they're considering sort of getting involved with ATDC in some fashion or another.
Yeah, so I have found tremendous value out of the catalysts at ATDC. So
hear that, Monique?
Yep.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd say anybody that feels like they've properly leveraged the ATDC would say the same thing. I always like to say sort of the immediate headline value that a lot of people seem to think ATDC offers is the space. So we're a signature company here. And so we have physical office space that's subsidized by the government, and I tremendously appreciate that. The location is amazing, right next to Georgia Tech to recruit talent.
And a very short walk to that slice that we talked about earlier in the program.
Great food, here in Midtown. But for us, a lot of the value has come from sort of the ancillary stuff that you don't know about when you first hear about ATDC. So things like Jeff Gapson, who used to be the FinTech Catalyst, now Charles Potts, who's the FinTech Catalyst here. The sort of network and tremendous value that they provide in introductions, the road shows that ATDC puts on for fundraising, the showcase that they put on for fundraising, the connectivity into the ecosystem, right? So one of the things that I always like to tell people is, hey, if you're going to go raise money for your company, don't be afraid to get on a plane. But ATDC here acknowledges that, right? Their job is to build the Atlanta ecosystem, but at the same time, they recognize that we need to go bring outside resources into Atlanta as well.
Yeah.
And that's only going to come from entrepreneurs being successful going out and bringing that stuff in. So, I mean, I'm going to be fully honest. I raised most of my capital outside of Atlanta, and now I'm spending it here in Atlanta. But not only does the ATDC support that, but they helped in that endeavor, and I really, really appreciate that. And then sort of the next thing that I love, and it's the exact same thing as you said, the talent here is incredible, right? So I actually started HackGT here in Atlanta, and so with that, I've had a tremendous access to undergrad talent at Georgia Tech, and I've leveraged the heck out of that. For us, we recruit a tremendous amount of part-time student labor at Stackfolio, and we love it. And we help train, we help provide classes, we provide ancillary sort of perks around working at Stackfolio, and we've had I think at least one of every single director of HackGT at Stackfolio. We've had sort of presidents of the web dev clubs. We've had folks that have led other E2M, Startup Exchange. All of these folks that come into Stackfolio work part time. Some stay, some accept full-time offers, some go elsewhere. But it's helped us build this sort of density of reputation, at least in the undergrad program here, that I really, really appreciate. And the location really helps with that, right? I think being able to afford space so that we work across the street of the Coda building is next to impossible for a company our size.
Right.
But being here and having the support network and the connectivity is phenomenal.
Well, I'm glad I asked, and I'm not surprised by your answer, but I am encouraged by it. And I think it's wonderful what the folks are doing down here. And I think it's great what you're doing, man. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are delighted to have you. Okay, one more time. Let's leave our listeners with coordinates for you if they want to reach out and talk with you about any of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Pav. My email is very simple. It's PAV, P as in Paul, A as in Apple, V as in Victor, at stackfolio.com.
Fantastic.
And please reach out.
Well, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, man.
Thank you.
All right, this is Stone Payton for all the folks down here at ATDC and everyone in the Business RadioX family. We'll see you next time on ATDC Radio.